already, but if not, then I've been writing books and working in the education area for quite a long time now. And actually, just yesterday, my blog post was featured on the Huffington Post's education section. So if you go to huffingtonpost.com and click education, then it'll be at the top. So I'm really excited to be just talking with you guys, and I was really curious to find out what are your projects right now and what have you been working on as well.
We're still trying to define that, I think.
Okay. And is there any way maybe you could introduce yourselves and talk about, why are you involved in education? Why is this something that you care about? And just a quick introduction.
Can you see us?
Yes, I can see.
Oh, there we are. My name is Seth, and I signed up for this education project because I drive around in a mobile truck that goes to all these different schools, and I've met so many different kids, and I just seems like the kids who get in trouble like in class stay after, and then I'm talking to people, and they just end up being sort of the most inspired. And I don't know. I signed up for this basically because I want to provide something for kids like that. I was one of those kids who didn't really fit in the school system the way it was, and I felt like I could have gotten more out of it had there been a different structure and program. So that's the main reason why I'm doing this.
Interesting. Okay. Thank you.
I'm a principal, I started a high school out in Chicago, several back-to-school programs in Boston, so I just like to push my thinking.
Great.
My name's Jacob, and I was the host of a show on NBC called School Pride. It was like the extreme makeover show, but for schools. So I got to go around the country this summer and lead 15,000 volunteers working to fix up schools in 7 different cities across the country. So that's why I'm here. I'm continuing the project.
Wow. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Have I seen oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I haven't signed up yet, but I'm a co-founder of a company called Piazza.com, which effectively we focus mostly on colleges right now, but it allows students to ask questions and get answers. Typically, you see brochures of schools or colleges where people are sitting around and this group of other kids talking, which, as you know, never happens. So we built a Facebook-like application that you can ask questions from anywhere and get answers. And I've got half the students from Stanford, and we're in 35 colleges now, and looking at bringing it to high school and lower school as well.
Great.
It's free. I'm showing to you guys. It's free, and we're getting a lot of positive traction.
Hi, I'm Dan. I run a program inspired by the 2009 TED Prize, the Elsa Stemma Inspired Program. It goes into underserved communities in LA and brings free, intensive orchestra instruction and musicians.
Hi, my name is Ilya Protopov. I work at a design company called IDEO, and I'm helping to facilitate this education project here at TED. So we're kind of prototyping the idea of what a project around education might be about. And the foundational question is, or the starting question, it's been evolving even just since we started, but the starting question is, how do we help kids get involved in the design of their own learning experience? Something I suspect you might have to know.
Oh yeah, definitely. So is that all? I'm only seeing a segment of you guys, but I don't want to cut anyone out.
Hi, I'm Stacey Hedis. I'm a professor at a small college in South Carolina, and I see a lot of differences in students' preparedness for college, even though I have the chance to work with some really good students. And so I just want to know how to bring that step to college to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So.
great to see you again.
See you again.
Yeah, you don't need to introduce yourself. I remember you pretty clearly. So,
Sure? One more. We got one more.
one.
Hi, I'm David Bill, teacher, education consultant out in San Francisco. Love your work. Continue it. Cheers.
Thank you. Okay, so it's great to. Oh yes, sorry.
Can you just kind of give them a real quick synopsis of who you are again, so we all know?
Oh, me? Yeah, sure. So, hello. If you're wondering why a suspiciously young face is looking at you on Skype, then my name's Doris Vitok. I'm 13 years old, and my work in education and speaking at education conferences, etc., it really started with when I published my first book, Flying Fingers. And since then, I've been going around speaking at various events, both conferences as well as education gatherings with teachers and administrators. So I have a lot of experience talking firsthand to principals and teachers about the problems that face their schools and some of the changes they're trying to make. But at the same time, I'm also a huge fan of TED, and so seeing how TED and TEDx projects can really work with education is something that's hugely interesting to me. So I really wanted to see what is your guys' vision of how do you see TED having a role in education and education reform? Sorry to just like throw a big question at you like that. I mean, I could start with more of a icebreaker if you wanted, but.
How do you see TED and larger education movement? You want to talk about what you're talking about in
Hi, my name's Christian. How are you?
Good, thanks.
A couple of us were just out of the pool having a similar conversation, so I appreciate you asking it. And this is very much on the fly and no expectation of the group. But I started to wonder out loud, to be fair, if we simply took on the challenge of designing TED School. And what I mean by that is you simply leverage everything that TED is, and you imagine, and this is based on one of our colleagues, Sarah Elizabeth, who suggested, what if we designed a school? So I'm interested in this idea that if you gave all of the resources that you know extremely well, that on some level you've helped us with, and you had students around the world trying to take advantage of all these resources and then put something into action. So the idea was not only was it inflow of ideas and mentors, but also the idea of actually having to produce something that would be given back to the world or to the tech community, or maybe a twofer. So that's just where my head is right now, is that we really didn't just talk about education as a macro space for TED, or about the videos themselves, but you actually had young people going to school at TED on a daily basis. So that's in the last 2 hours, my new passion.
That's amazing. That sounds wonderful. And that's really interesting to hear. Because, there's so much at TED, not just in the form of videos, but also in the blogs and on all the material on the site, even, comments, conversations, whatever it is, there's so much that can be learned by students. And I think that a lot of times people think of education and of learning as only taking place in school, especially for kids. But you all know, you're all lifelong learners, that so much learning can take place online on places like TED. And so to get teachers and students to realize here is another form of learning, here's another place to learn, I think that that's something that would be really valuable. And I know that I was actually one time, I organized my own TEDx event called TEDx Redmond, and we had all these students come and speak, and some of them spoke about education, and that was really cool to be able to hear them. And then the parent of one of our speakers was a technology administrator at a school, and he asked some students, okay, would you rather go out and have recess, or do you want to stay inside and watch a TED video? And they decided to stay inside and watch a TED video, which I thought was, and it incidentally was mine. But so that was really cool, not only for me personally, but also just to see that students were picking to watch a video and to learn from the video instead of, go outside and play. And so that kind of students' curiosity about TED, and I think that can really be leveraged to get it out there. But still, definitely talking to my peers and stuff, a lot of my age group haven't heard about TED, and so just making sure that, and a lot of the students I know who do know about TED, it's because their parents or friends, their parents have told them about it. So we need to not just have this kind of trickle-down approach where it's their parents or where it's their teachers telling them about it, but also where the students themselves are aware of TED and are watching TED videos and are pushing to have it as a part of their learning experience. Any other ideas on, how TED plays a role in education?
I think this sort of builds on what Christian was saying and what I've done in the past with TED videos themselves is it has to have that tangible component to it. It's all well and good to have the TED videos and have kids watch them,
Yeah.
but so what, right? And so what I want to make sure happens is whatever we do here or beyond is that when we look at TED and the content that is available, it really does tie back to that larger picture of how we get the students to engage and empowering them to create and connect to the larger problems that are available. So have those videos, connect to that problem, and then say, okay, you now have a knowledge base. Let's go and do something with that and take it from there. So there you go.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing, and something that people have, people sometimes, criticize TED for, you're just videos, but I think what they underestimate is the fact that so many people will watch TED videos and say, how can I make an impact? How can I go out and get involved? And so by asking students to not only watch TED videos, but also think, how am I going to get involved? How am I going to have a role? I think that that's an important part of it. But also just the fact that service learning or getting kids to be involved in social projects and doing good for the world, that's becoming a bigger part of a lot of schools these days, especially high school. So, and seeing how that theme of service and social consciousness fits in with TED, I think it fits perfectly. So just, getting students who are already interested maybe in making a difference and pairing them up, having these TED videos that introduce them to so many different ideas of how to do good, then I think that would be a really powerful mix. And any other ideas on how you envision TED having a role? Maybe I know that a lot of you are really directly involved in education, like being having started schools or working directly with kids. What are the things that you're already doing as far as maybe introducing TED or working with your students about talking about TED videos and sharing it as a resource? What are some of the things you're already doing?
I'll introduce myself to you and to the group. I'm Trent Sharp, the principal at Denver Center for International Studies, and I'm supposed to be in this group. I arrived late yesterday, so hello. One of the things I'm working on now is articulating. We're a public school, but we're trying to articulate autonomies that we want around our resources and curriculum in particular. What I'm really excited about with TED is the potential for this format of learning. Because the videos are one thing, but it's really the human interactions that are the power around this. For the possibility of students engaging in content anytime, any place, and for the school building to begin to function as a space more akin to the one we're sitting in now. Project spaces, small teams that are inspired by what they've seen and trying to apply ideas in a cross-disciplinary fashion. I think our kids are teed up for that, they're hungry for it and ready for it. So around curriculum and instruction, I think TED plays potentially a really powerful role in shifting the content focus and by giving us a platform to open up students exploring in any direction they're wanting to and providing the mechanisms for action afterwards. I think it's exciting and I'm interested in what we're doing here being replicated at a school level. Literally around process of using video plus human interaction plus actionable projects doing it. So we'll see. I'm excited to talk to you guys about this.
Okay. And are there any challenges associated? Sorry, I just want to ask a question. Are there any challenges associated with being in a public school environment and getting involved with TED and having the TED videos come to students, because I could see, I know it really differs across schools, but I know some schools are very specific on, we filter out all these websites, we don't want you to bring in this kind of content or outside content. So have you faced any challenges working in a public school environment?
Yes. We're in Colorado. We have an innovation legislation that we're working under, so we're getting autonomies around curriculum, and one of them's around filtration and what kind of stoppage you have around content. But yes, that's very true for most public schools.
I think the other one, and I just wrote the group about this, is the demands that the college acceptance rates have for us too as well. I think those dictate a lot of courses that we have to provide. So considering that we want our kids to be college ready and to get into a good college, then we have to play that game as well too. So not just local bureaucracy, but also the college application process can be barriers to an idea like this.
Yeah, and I think that when you have all these, and we've seen that standards, even with the best intentions, whenever you set standards as far as students need to do this in reading, do this in math, and then what tends to happen is everything that's not that gets cut out, and that's definitely an influence that's kind of difficult to fight. But I think that it's possible to, you could say, well, here are videos that align with the standards, but I think it's important to go beyond that, and this is something that I talked about in my blog post, was that we really need to have a more holistic approach, saying, we're educating a person, not just a 7th grade student or a college student. And so taking that holistic approach and saying, these videos, the process of learning, the process of thinking, how can I make change? I think that that's something that goes to educating the person as opposed to just a student. It's a really hard sell, though, and I think that that's why we've seen so many programs, enrichment, electives, all those things cut, is because, we have these tests and college applications you mentioned.
It's a hard sell because it's hard to be accountable in that way, right?
Yes.
So accountability, and moving away from this would be harder to hold people accountable to in that sense. And maybe if that's the way to do, if there's a way to do that, then doors would open a little bit wider. But I can see, and I know if you're going to push the standards less curriculum, immediately the question of accountability comes back up.
Yeah, and that's why standards are there, is because a 4th grader should be able to read at a certain level, but then what happens to their knowing about other countries and stuff like that. So yeah, there's definitely and if you make wider standards that apply to more things, then trouble comes up there too. So it's still a troubling issue. And outside of TED, what are you guys' opinion on what are the most pressing issues in education today? I just wanted to ask a pretty broad question.
We lost you. You have to repeat.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. What is your opinion on what are the most pressing issues in education today?
Human capital is probably a good place to start.
Oh, I asked what are the most pressing issues in education today? So what are like the biggest challenges or problems that need to be solved?
I'll still start with human capital and finding good teachers. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't quite hear you. Anyone else?
Ours is around, currently it's around immediate need for autonomy around how you ask people money and time. And a public system, figuring that out, that's not where I'm at. So having those flexibilities is key for us.
Yeah, because oh, sorry.
I'm on the board of a private school, so it would be a little bit different issues, but it's really adapting to change while adhering to core curriculum and focusing on tradition.
Okay. Is that something that you face a lot of? Are a lot of people kind of skeptical, or are they saying, we need to stick with the curriculum? Are a lot of people skeptical about change or changes you're trying to make?
No, they're terrified of it. The objective here is, most parents who send their kids to, high-end private schools want them to get into an Ivy League school. So what's the best way, the best approach to prepare the kids to make that happen? And there's obviously a combo class now, old world training with new world tools.
Well, I think that one thing a lot of parents overlook is the fact that students having an impact and students, doing good. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm hearing the music coming through. Well, it's great talking to you guys. Yeah, that's no problem. Bye. Great talking to you. Thank you. Thank you.